Man, I thought that was probably our best, for sure, our best on-ball defensive performance of the year. And man, I'm thankful because we spent a lot of time on it since we got back from Christmas. And I just thought we took more pride in keeping the ball in front. And the thing about it is Andrew's done a phenomenal job with that team. I don't know if it's referenced enough how much they lost. Obviously we know they lost Jake. That's not all they lost. He's basically had to start this whole thing over. They've got 4 freshmen out there in Conway. Andrew's done a great job of getting them to compete. They should have beat Fordham right before Christmas, lost in overtime. And, man, what they've done is they've put a lot of drivers out there. They've put a lot of guards out there that just they stress you off the bounce. And then they've got a ton of shooters, right? They've shot as many threes as anybody in the country. So proud of our guys of how we were able to keep the ball in front for the most part. They averaged almost 33s a game, just attempts. And I think we held them tonight. We held them to 17 attempts. So, we were able to cut their volume down almost a third and then did a great job on Conway, right? Did a great job on Conway specifically in the first half. But, slow start with the turnovers. And that's been something I know you guys know how much turnovers bother me and really frustrate me. We didn't have a great first time out because of them, but I give our guys credit. We had 5 to start the game, and then we only had 5 the rest of the game. And, to finish with 25 assists, 10 turnovers, I think 16 made threes. We shoot 40% from 3 on the night. And, man, Marcus Foster I told him today in film, I said, you're going to play well tonight. And it's just so funny the more you do this. It's as a player, I didn't really always like it when I heard coaches say you're gonna play how you practice. Just kind of the contrarian me a little bit, always kind of refuted that a little bit. Like, hey, the game's a game. Then the more you do this on this side of it, you really see that. And it's not so much are they productive in practice, it's what type of energy and what type of spirit do they bring to practice. And I told Marcus today, he's sitting right there, I said, Mark, you're going to have a coming out party tonight, and it's going to be because of how you've prepared these last 2 days. And not only did he make threes, 7 for 12 from the perimeter, but, man, his defensive effort was incredible. And, I can go on and on about specific guys. I thought Mike, they're going to go under everything, right? They're going to pack the paint in. They're going to make it really hard for those guys to get space. And you know what? He had no shots at halftime, and I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. He just had a competitor. He had a strong face, and then he goes out there, and we do a better job getting him some shots in the second half, but ends up getting 10 shots in the second half and 4 double-figure scores. And, got to play some guys there at the end, which was good to see. But just complete performance outside of the start of the game. We got down, obviously, 19-17, but proud how we finished the half and then how we played in the second half.
Which I thought clearly the play of the game was this cold snap came through over winter break and froze your three-point rim. And Tyrese comes in and banks in the 3 and knocks off all that ice. But no, seriously, Tyrese and Marcus come in. I think at one point you had 17 points and they had 14 of them. And that was obviously a huge lift off the bench.
Yeah, Tyrese, I love him. He's got his ceiling's so high. It's just you can see it. I get frustrated because there's missed assignments out there that maybe don't get picked up so easily, but his heart is so good and he cares so much. Tyrese was in here yesterday morning early. We've had to give Tyrese a morning time limit. Right, our strength coaches had to tell him you can't come in here until this time, and so what's happening is he's got a ton of confidence in it because he's put the work in, and he had a few missed assignments, he had a few things. I got frustrated with him on that ball screen there in the first half, and he got outrun to the rim, but he's just going to keep getting better, and he's going to be somebody that's going to have a huge season finishing this season. But you're right, he hits the 3 and then he gets a steal. Now, I think we end up coughing that ball up, but then he hit another 3, and then he comes back and hits that 3 in front of us in the second half. But he's somebody, he's got a lot of potential, and the more he's out there, the better he's going to get.
Knowing Coach Wilson's defensive background, you knew that it might be a tough night for your 2 kind of heavy hitters, Bothwell and Slauson. Is that maybe a reason why that you thought had a little inkling that Marcus Foster might be in for a big night, because he seems to respond when the other 2 maybe aren't shooting as well as they sometimes.
Well, I think you gotta, you've got to see how the other teams are going to play you. As a staff, we have to present. Here's what it looks like. Here's where our advantages are going to be. Here's where our weaknesses are going to be. Here's where they're going to be really good. And a lot of times the game within the game is, do you fight that, right? Like, do you over dribble, right? If a team's going to commit that much to the ball, are you going to be able to get it out, right? And we had a couple times, especially in the first half, where I felt like we took an extra dribble, we got the ball in trouble. But once as a team, right, when you understand the power of the unit, if they're gonna send all those guys, right, to take those two guys out, then we're gonna get some shots from the edges. And fortunately, I think making shots is contagious. I think missing shots is contagious. I think Tyrese comes in there and banks one in and starts laughing, and he hits another one. And Marcus, look, Marcus can shoot it. I don't care what the numbers say. I mean, we all have a ton of faith in Marcus' ability to bank shots. What I liked about it tonight is there was no hesitation with him. Like to a point where I called a play for him that we used to always run for Jordan Lyons, and we flipped the corners. We hadn't run it for him all year, but I could tell. I mean, we dialed up Conley's favorite play right before halftime last year and J. Law's favorite play, and we had Marcus in both spots, and he hit both of them. And that's, sometimes you think, oh, man, you're calling plays for threes. It can tighten those guys up. He was just so confident tonight that, he was ready to get them up. And that's all I ask these guys is, hey, look, expect to make it. Expect to put the work in that we're asking you to do. But, man, I was actually frustrated with that at halftime a little bit. We had a couple other guys were catching it open. I thought they had good looks, and they were passing them up. And then they're driving into a crowded traffic space, and then we're turning it over. You got to jump up there with conviction. And I thought Mike did that early in the second half. Out of halftime, he hit that shot on the right wing. And, look, if they're going to go under, that's the game right now, right? I mean, it keeps everything in front. But at some point, you're going to have to jump up there and knock them down.
This may be 6-1, half dozen the other, but I suspect it's not. While the team has had some trouble getting off to slow starts from time to time, it seems like most of the time earlier in the year, the slow starts were more because of defensive lapses, where in this game it seemed like the offense was what was off at the start of the game.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, they say the most irrelevant thing in a game is the score at halftime. Definitely the most irrelevant thing in the game is the score early in the game, right? Like there's a little bit of like, hey, you got to figure out what they're doing. And we can sit there and tell them, hey, this thing's going to be, I'm walking through the line and they got guys with chains and locks on their neck. And I'm assuming that's basically like, hey, that's their visual, like a lot of teams do with the turnover chains. Hey, we're going to lock the paint up. Like, we're going to make this really, really hard. And they've really kind of bought into it. They're pretty good at it, and it's similar to how North Greenville played us in game one. It's not the same quite as what Penn State did, but it's really what North Greenville did to us. And they were up early in that game, first of the year. It's just go under everything, right? Keep it all in front. Don't let them have access to the paint. Don't let them play one-on-one. And you got to hit shots. And so, once we kind of settled in, the temptation on it is this. Well, I'm wide open. I got to throw this one up, right? But you got to kind of be persistent to get, first side, second side, inside, get some good movement, get some good drives, and then look, now you're going to get those kick threes. And those are the ones we want. Like the two JP got in the second half were just gorgeous plays, right? You're just getting multiple drives, finally to a kick, they overhelp. And I only thought we had a couple bad threes. We had a couple dribble threes I wasn't crazy about, but for the most part, that's why we, on 40 attempts, that's a lot. But if you're going to go 40%, then go ahead and try to shoot 60 of them.
Well, Steve, if I may follow up, if there's one thing that has to be demoralizing is if the game comes in and they think they're going to lock up Mike Bothwell, and they do, and immediately balls start going in from all over the place, it certainly loosens things up for Mike Bothwell.
There's no doubt. And, Mike's benefited from this too now. His sophomore year at Chattanooga, they decided to stay out on the other all-conference players, and he goes for 26. That's the open guy's the go-to guy, and that's just how we operate, and that's the team, right? And that's the understanding that we're all fighting to get the best possible shot we can get. And look, Matt Rafferty's been boxing one before, Jordan Lyons. People can try to take you out. Do you have the trust of one another to move the ball, right? Just keep playing, and it can be frustrating, we ran a play to get Mike on a wide pin, and Mike and Slaw aren't kind of queued up, and Slaw throws the thing out of bounds, right? Because the defender's literally playing like almost at the box, and so you've just got to get in the game and adjust to it. But I thought once we got settled and we really quit giving them the ball via the turnover, I thought we started getting some good looks, and it was nice to see Marcus go out there and loosen it up for us.
Having said what you said about Marcus the last 2 days of practice, performance against Anderson after he had a really good run there to start the year and then had a little bit of a slump, then gets 17 against Anderson going into the break. I thought maybe that gave him a lot of confidence coming into tonight as well.
Yeah, it's I'm going back. We played Anderson that Monday, and then we had 2 more practices. We had a lighter practice Tuesday morning, and we had a pretty intense practice Wednesday morning before they got out of here. And he was great in those practices. And maybe you're right. Maybe some of that came off of it. But look, Marcus is as good as he wants to be. And when he loses himself in the game and he competes and he rebounds, I don't even know what he had rebounding-wise tonight. He had 8 boards, right? He gets 23 points, he gets 8 boards, 3 offensive, 2 assists and 0 turnovers, and he's a plus 30. And that's just, it's like, it's the baseball deal, right? Like, do you get hits because you're in good spirits, or are you in good spirits because you get hits? That's where you don't want to be, right? Like, you study the great hitters. Well, you're the more, hey, they're free spirited. They go up there and they just hit the ball, right? And I think it's the same thing with shooting. When you get so fixated on, man, I have to make this shot, right? No, Mark, you don't have to make any shots, right? You just go out there and play as hard as you can, do what we're asking you to do, and at the end of the day, man, trust it. And, it's golf is not a game of perfection, really small book, but it's got some good stuff in it. And I pulled a chapter yesterday and I put it in their locker and basically just talking about the game of golf and how you've just got to be thoughtless, right? Like, you can't go out there and get so mechanical and it's elbow here and your feet here. Like, all that stuff's done on the practice floor. But I put a little 4-page article in their locker this morning. I just, that was the message in team meeting. Like, just throw the ball up there and trust it. Like have some trust in yourself, trust your teammates, trust the system. And I thought Marcus, like, when you watch him tonight, the smiling, right? Like, yes, the shots were going in. I get it. His demeanor's been different, right? His spirit's been better. And, like I said, nobody was least surprised in there tonight than myself. He can shoot whatever shot he wants. We've had a running joke since last year. He wants some staggers and some pins. And so, I was giving him a hard time. I threw a couple at him tonight, and he knocked both of them down. So, I think he's setting himself up to have a really good league run.
Your 2 leaders, I noticed that one of the timeouts, Mike kind of got into the guys not to leave their feet, that's what we worked on, so to speak. And then there was other times in the game where I thought that Jalen Slauson looked absolutely, he and Tyrese looked absolutely exhausted at times, which, that's that's more a good thing than a bad thing, I think, for you as a head coach to see that, because those guys are given absolutely everything that they have. And I thought maybe the best defensive game of the year from Jalen tonight. What are your comments?
Yeah, Jalen, you look at it, he didn't shoot it as well as he wanted to, but he still ends up with 9 rebounds, 7 points, and 8 assists. So I guess he's a few points and a couple assists away from a triple-double. And, Mike's leadership has been consistent all year. It's the best he's ever led. I'll say this, and this is a bold comment from all the great players that we've had here. He's rivaled anybody that I've coached in terms of the leadership qualities that he's presented our team with this year. And it's just like that. Like, it's understanding that, like, there's going to be some confrontational moments because he cares so much and he wants to win so bad. Like, and Coach Johnson did a phenomenal job with personnel and just showing how many times at the end of drives they're going to try to get you to leave your feet. And we emphasized it and overemphasized it. So then all of a sudden we get in the game, and 3 of their baskets early were for us at the end of drives leaving our feet. And I'm going in the huddle, and I'm about to address it, and he addressed it. And I think that's where you see great teams really flourish, is when you have guys that are really not just saying, all right, we're out here trying to play well, but we're trying to play the right way, and we're trying to carry on what the game plan is. And, Mike led in a tremendous way, and just for his spirit to be where it was, not being able to – not taking a shot, that's my fault. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, for him to play a half with no shots, that's completely on me. And, we did a better job. He had that 3 off the hurricane action, which was good to see, but we tried to get him a little bit more involved second half. But, man, both those guys. Slaw was communicating. I think I've challenged our team. Our communication's got to continue to grow, and I thought we took a step forward there tonight.
Next up, tonight, first home game, probably a good opener to do. You probably know you're going to get the best effort. You have a target because you're picked as the number 1 team in the conference. Now you have the first road test at Western Carolina. Probably, I mean, what dynamic changes when you go up there?
Well, I mean, we actually talked about that before the game today. I mean, this idea that we've got to target, like, that's not how this stuff works, right? Like, as long as I'm the head coach here, like, we're going to hunt. Like, we're not the hunted. You know what I mean? Like what we have a target on our back and we can't aim. We can't go do what we're doing. We can't go play well, right? Like, this idea that, like, we're just going to get everybody's best shot, does that not give us the right to go give our best shot? And so some of that is noise. You know what I mean? Some of that is just kind of like, oh, you got to target. Like, this program's won plus 20 games for a while now, right? So our guys are used to that. And I hear what you're saying, and I'm not refuting it. And I'm not saying it's negative, but, like, it is something that we've talked to our guys about. Like, hey, we've got to go be the aggressor, right? Like, you're right. When people play Furman now, we've seen it. Guys celebrate after games, and I mean, it's a big deal to be Furman. But at the end of the day, like, we've got to make sure on both sides of the ball that we go out there and we have the mentality that, hey, we're not the hunted. We've got to be the hunter. We've got to play with an aggression. And I thought we did that tonight. But look, this league is a grind, and that's why I'm saying that. That's not saying, hey, we're gonna, like, I saw scores walking in here. Like, you can try to figure out who you think's gonna win. You better show up. Right? You better show up. You go to Charleston, you better show up. Like, you go to Greensboro, you better show up. You go to Chattanooga, you better show up. You go to John, like, every single venue in this league, when we go to Lexington, we better show up. And that conditioning of the mind and the spirit, like, with the staff, with the team, like, there's tomorrow, like, hey, everybody in the league except 2 teams is gonna have a day between games. Okay, so you come in here and walk around and hang out and you start feeling good about yourself, right? And you let the guard down a little bit and you don't go prepare, it's going to be a fight. I'm just telling you. Like,
well, some things are fun facts and superstition.
I get it.
The actual facts,
I get
the
it.
actual statistics do not bear that out. But people will always still say that.
They love talking about it, right? And I think that my job is to make sure that we control our message, right? And we control our expectation. And, you've got to expect to fight, but you've also got to expect to play well. And those two things can be true, right? Like, it was our whole discussion after Christmas is understanding, right? Wanting it to be easy to win, you're going to get beat, right? But understanding how you play that can ease up your ability to go win, that's different, right? Like, those are two different things. Easy versus ease, or playing to your strengths and playing to identity, like, that's just what we have to be able to go do night in and night out. We can't get so you start getting caught up, and that's where Nico was such an influential piece for me as a head coach. He always it was, as we built this up, it was never about the other teams, right? It was always about us, and it's always about what's next. And for us, like Western Carolina, they've done a great job. They're better, okay? Like, you've seen the non-conference scores, and they're going to be at home. They got beat today. They're going to be upset, right? It's just the nature of the human. It's the human condition, right? After a loss, you're going to play with a little bit more urgency, and we've got to go match that. So it's going to be a challenge. We got 17 of them left. I told the team today, just buckle up, man. Like, it can't be a burden. This has got to. We've got to find joy in this, but it's going to be a journey. And I thought our guys did that tonight. I thought that's the hardest I feel like we've competed on the defensive end. It was not perfect, trust me. I saw the rim run layup. I saw guys getting the baseline too much. Thought we let our guard down a little bit there in the second half. But I thought it was our best defensive effort. And look, we still got things we can get better at, and we've just got to have a spirit of continually to do that. If we do that, we'll like where we end up. I see what you're saying. I get carried away a little bit.
Something you need that, because the fans, they need to think that they have something to do with it. It makes them more excited. You don't need to know.
Hey, I will say this, and administration, Drew, Jason, I mean, no students here in that atmosphere tonight. I mean, that's pretty cool. Just what the administration's done of getting this. I mean, used to assistant head coach whenever, like, you get these apologies, hey, we're not expecting the whole, like, hey, that was good tonight. Like, that was a good environment in there tonight, and that's a credit to them and what they're doing and how hard they're working on this. But it's hey, it's an everyday fight, right? It's that's why I love working with Drew, and he's texted me today. We changed the rugs out in the building here, and he told me he knew I was going to be pumped up about that. Because that's progress, right? And rugs important, like those details. Everything's got to be right, and you just got to keep pushing. And to see the baseline's all filled tonight, right? No excuses, right? Every single one of those seats on the baseline was filled, and we just program wide, right? We just got to keep pressing, and this stuff's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, but man, it sure is fun, and it was fun to see our group battle like they did tonight. We good?
Well, I'll tell you this, Coach. I spent 20 years fighting about